shorty, what your name is? Do you have a man? Who you came with?
Welcome to the Streets Academy podcast, where we have one foot.
I was trying to channel you. I don't have the Amber in my spirit.
Like, that was a really gentle gun. Like, if you was in a fight, you'd be got, because that thing was like,
right, it is the soft.
Oh, we got to talk about that, weapons. Anyway,
Yes.
So women and weapons and having a little pistol in the bag. But anyway, this is the Street Academy podcast, where we have one foot in the academy and one foot in them strizzies. So you will see conspicuously that our guest co-host, our beloved Jonathan Grant, is not here with us today. And that's only because he's a little under the weather. And it also just so happens that we are talking about all things women. It's ladies' night, right? Now, it is night.
Dad, I love that song so much.
I did. As a kid, I didn't even know what was going on. I'm just like, I want to be on the beach with them dancing left side.
It was everybody in that song.
It was everybody. You know what? Why haven't they made a remix? Has anyone done like a modern day remix of that song in terms of like who all the women are today? Like, who would be in it now? Would it be like Beyonce, Rihanna, Normani? Like, who?
Yeah, I guess so. But like,
Italian.
Yes. I don't know. I think about like the rap girls like Meg and Cardi and Nicki Minaj and
could they even be in the same room together?
That's the thing. Like, you know, I hear about like this beef, and I don't know how much of that is just like manufactured for, you know, whatever versus actual beef. Even though I think Cardi B and Nicki Minaj actually had like real beef, like they
I think so.
Put hands on each other at some point. So
that's kind of funny though, actually. And that's something we got to talk about too, the idea of like women and cattiness and all that kind of stuff. Well, so you're kind of hearing what we're about to talk about today. Jackie, can you take us into our topic?
Yeah, you know, it's March, it's Women's History Month, and this is just the time when we acknowledge and honor the contributions of women to US history, worldwide history, and not to necessarily say that we are big on celebrating US history, but we certainly do acknowledge that there are many women who have paved the path that we walk on now, that have kicked open some doors, that have made life easier for us in a lot of ways. And so we honor what they did. And we also recognize that, you know, the world they lived in and the world that we live in now are pretty different. So we had a lot to talk about when it comes to like those differences in terms of the archetype that was set for us and the archetype that we currently live in. So
that's a whole thing. That's a whole story. So with that, what is our Off the Georgia Dome? What's our just like quick thoughts on women's history in general, women living as a woman? Do you want to start and then I go, or?
Oh man, I don't know.
I know. How can we even put that into like Off the Georgia Dome?
Yeah, you know, I honestly just think of sometimes when I talk to my mom and, you know, I'm telling her about like different struggles that I have, and she's like, oh, just do this or that or the third. And I'm like, that wouldn't work. Like, I understand how that might have worked in your time, but it doesn't work in my time. And then other times we'll just be talking and she'll share something. And I'm like, dang, how did that happen like 50 years ago? And it's like uncanny, the similarities that exist now. So it feels like that age-old saying of like, the more things change, the more they stay the same in some regards, just in terms of like living through the effects of like masculinity and femininity and patriarchy and misogyny and all of those things combining in our lives.
You said a whole lot. So let me see. So for me, I look at it like two things. So one, I'm coming off of the mini-sode where I talked about the strong Black woman trope, the strong Black woman schema. And so if you haven't checked that out, check that out. Because I go on a rant about how I'm done. I'm done with trying to be this
Mm,
strong Black woman. And so I think that's one thing when it comes to the kind of like the history of the past, or we could say like the previous archetype, where I really would hope that these next generations of Black women can kind of come out of that, can evolve out of that
yeah.
pressure of embodying the strong Black woman. Of course, the pressure is not necessarily self-imposed, it's externally imposed in some senses. And at the same time, it can be self-imposed because we can realize it.
Absolutely.
So one part of it for me is thinking about like, again, that evolution out of the strong Black woman schema. And then the other is thinking about women's history as our history, our present history, not always necessarily looking to the past, because I think it's important to look to the past in order to look forward, Sankofa, all that. And at the same time, celebrate the fact that we are making history now, that we will have a legacy and that we are somebody's ancestor. Perhaps, well, we are always somebody's ancestor, whether or not
Right.
it comes out of our womb or not. But looking at our stories and like looking at our day-to-day lives as, present stories, it is about narrative. What is my story today? And so I think I look forward to just like reflecting about our stories today and not counting myself out of history, rather seeing myself in history, and not just about the women who have had different types of accomplishments or success, as the world has put it, or things that seem to be noteworthy and remarkable. There's a lot of people who we're just living, and there's nothing unremarkable about that. We have the right and the presence to be in history as well. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. All right.
That's
Well,
too.
Let's get into these stories about women and stuff. So we're kind of thinking about doing like a 21 questions type of format. We just gonna go for it. So one of the biggest things I think that women get pressure about, or just in terms of even thinking about this archetype of the past and the present, is being a mom. What do we feel about that motherhood? Though Jackie and I, we are 35 plus, and so neither of us have babies yet. And of course, we're here left and right, like, where the babies at? And if we go to a doctor at this point, they're telling us we are in the geriatric season of pregnancy. Our eggs are drying up and all kinds of things. So what do we feel about it, Jackie?
That is a loaded question. I actually just faced some familial pressure about having children last week. Like, hey, where are the children? Like, why not? Where, when, how? All of that. And I have pretty consistently maintained since I was pretty young that I wasn't necessarily interested in birthing children.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily opposed to children, but I also feel like having children is something that you should feel strongly about, not necessarily not necessarily ambivalent.
Good point.
Yeah. So, I have pretty consistently been like, nah, that's not necessarily for me, because I don't feel strongly about birthing children. At certain points, I did feel pretty strongly about like adoption or foster parenting. And now I happen to be married to someone who very, very much wants kids.
Really?
Yes. So that has been like a big part of our ongoing conversation for the past couple of years in terms of like when and if and like all of those things. And to be honest, when I think about my own hesitations, they are about, it's about like a set of factors that I can't necessarily control. Knowing the statistics that we do about Black maternal health, and especially now that we are in this in this geriatric age of pregnancy, so that's like a concern. And then when this kid gets here, I am a dark-skinned Black woman. My husband happens to be a dark-skinned Black man. And so this baby is going to be very obviously a Black person. And how, like the sorts of symbolic or symbols or symbolism, whatever it is, like the messages that Blackness carries in this world,
Oof, yeah.
are tough, you know. And then I also just think about like my capacity to mother, you know, when I think about like all of the things that I'm currently doing, I don't always feel like I have the capacity to do something that is such a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
and I think, I mean, I know that people like vary on this and like
Mhm.
approach this differently, but I feel like parenthood is probably the most important thing you can do because that's another human person,
A
you
whole
know?
ass human.
Yeah,
Forever and ever and ever. They're never
exactly.
not human.
Exactly. And the things that you do or don't do, like even if you try your absolute best, you're probably gonna cause like some kind of like trauma that this kid is gonna have to like work through. And I say that because I saw this very silly video yesterday, probably on Instagram,
Mhm,
but of this little Black child. This kid could not have been more than like 2.
mhm,
So it's clearly like a kid who has lived their entire life in this pandemic, probably hasn't gotten out much. So
mm, mhm,
whoever was filming this video, it's this kid in like a clothing store of some sort, like maybe a Macy's or I don't
mhm,
know, Express or whatever it is.
mhm.
And this kid is seeing a mannequin, and you can see
They're
like
completely blown
this kid is
away.
just like, I don't know what to do with this thing. And I'm just like looking at this kid's face. And on one hand, it's funny. And on the other hand, I'm like, this kid is being traumatized right now. And there's nothing you can do. Like, they're mannequins, like, there are all these things in the world that kids have to like encounter.
It's
And even if
true.
you're the most perfect parent, like, there's going to be some stuff that this kid has to navigate. Anyway, all that to say is that, you know, that's a really big responsibility.
Mm,
And so as a woman, I often think of like, what are the things that I can let fall off, like off
mm,
to the side and not worry about,
mhm,
versus what things might drop off to the side, but might come back later to bite us, so to speak,
mhm,
because they were not like perfectly thought out or planned in
mhm,
advance. You know, like
mhm.
it's, for example, like it's easy to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna, you know, quit my job and like stay at home, and then the rent is due, you know,
Right,
the mortgage is due.
right.
So, you know, just all those things are, you know, just complicating factors when
They
I think
are.
about motherhood.
They are. And you just making me think about so many things. I think for me, it's interesting. I feel like we're similar in this that
Mm.
it's like, yeah, kids, like, like, I guess. Yeah, I guess I say that because okay, so when people used to ask me the question, like, how many kids do you want to have? I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know, like 2, 3. But then at the same time, I always, I always looked at it like, okay, it's really hard for me to conceptualize myself as a mother because I feel like
Mm.
it's really important for me to be able to conceptualize the father
Mm.
because the child is not just my baby. The child is both mine and my husband's. And so I can't, for me, I would tell people that for my imagination to work in terms of children and motherhood, I need to see the partner. I need to see
Mm.
who the husband is because I'm seeing my children in a family context. I don't want to
Right.
see them as like, these are my babies. It's like, how many kids do you want to have? Well, it's going to be a question of me and my spouse. Like, what
Yeah.
are our lifestyles? What is our vision for our lives? And so I feel like that was a big thing for me that like, okay, I can't, I don't, I know, I feel like some women are like, oh, I definitely feel it. Like, I'm a mother. I want to have as many babies as possible. For me, it was very contextual. Like, I
Mm.
need to be able to see what the family is. And then I can start seeing, like, okay, maybe I could have 2 or 3 children or something like that. Now that I'm in a relationship that I think will probably lead to marriage, it's easier to be able to conceptualize that some more. And so now I'm like, okay, I can see myself having some kids. And I think just like you, I look at it like my partner will want to have kids, and I can
Mm.
see that. And at the same time, I think I'm very disillusioned and about motherhood being this like fanciful, beautiful thing, the pregnancy, like I don't care about none of that. Like, oh, my maternity pictures, and I want to, look like a goddess in my, I don't care about none of that. These maternal mortality rates are out of control. I'm not trying to just be afraid, but it's like I see that, and I'm like, I'm old enough now to completely see what children are about. I have had enough friends who have had babies. I've seen it, I've seen it. It's just like having children is a thing. It is not, it doesn't go away. It's challenging. And at the same time, I know that it can be very rewarding too. In one way, it's just like, how many ways can you F up your child and traumatize them? And I also know the opposite is true. It's like, how many ways can you actually instill amazing things into them? And they turn into these wonderful human beings, right? And it's just like, how all of the things that can go right. It's kind of that whole thing where people were talking about red flags. It's like, what are the dating red flags or what are the dating green flags? And so like, there are parenting red flags, there are parenting green flags. There are things that can turn out well. And so I don't have to be so like, I don't have to be pessimistic in that sense but it's hard not to look at that, because now being an adult, I think about my childhood way more now than when I was a child. And so it's like, and I can be, the older I get and the more I'm in therapy and the more I do processing and connect with people, it's like, I can kind of pinpoint those very traumatizing moments that have stuck with me and that have been the baseline for some really limiting beliefs. Right. And so I'm like, childhood is a crazy thing. And so I'm like, do I want to engage in this whole process of, bringing another human into the world? Because I also was never that person who, when babies were around, I'm running to hold the baby and be like, oh my God, it's like, I don't care. It's like, baby, I care. Like, I care about
Never
babies.
Stop being me.
This is terrible. This might sound bad, but it's like, I care about babies who matter. Do all babies matter? Sure, all babies matter, all lives matter. That, to me, all babies matter is this equivalent as all lives matter. For me, some babies matter. It's like my friends' babies matter. And that might sound terrible. I'm not, of course, if there was like a truckload of babies, that we're all gonna be safe, yes. But if I had to save some of the babies, I'd save my friends' babies, because so it's all houses matter. This house matters, that's on fire. So to me, it's like children are like, oh, they're cute. Sure. The one that matters is the one who I know. So I never was just like that. Oh, babies. But anyway, so but the ones I care about, I care about. So anyway, the point is I am not moved by I'm not very moved by the thought of like, I think I just think about the danger of it a little bit more. It's a lifelong endeavor. It is a lifelong endeavor. And so, and I think when it comes to the whole geriatric pregnancy and people saying, the idea of freezing eggs or being like, your biological clock is ticking, you got to get it moving. And that kind of, I feel like that's that kind of fear mongering of like, you got to do this. And at the same time, because I was reading in Becoming with Michelle Obama, when she was just like, had an older pregnancy. I think she was like in her like mid 30s. And she was just like, ladies, it's real. Like you really, like the biological clock is real. And I'm like, I get that too. And then I also understand that people who might freeze their eggs might have had other situations that necessitated them freezing eggs, like having cancer or something like that, or some other kind of situation. So I get that. And I think that's important. And I think where I stand now personally is, if I am meant to have kids, and this might sound naive, and yet at the same time, I feel like it's foundational for me, it's like, it will happen. And at a later point, I decide to do whatever I need to do to have the kids, whether it's, like getting my eggs fertilized or some kind of like other method or something, then I'll do that. And that'll be what I'll come to at that time. I don't have to come to it right now. So I feel like if I'm to have kids, I will, and I'm not going to pressure myself into it. I don't have that like strong desire yet. I might develop into that, especially after I get married. And then it's like, I think what happens too is the reality of, it's different from choosing not to have kids and not being able to have kids. That's a different kind of thing. It's just like, wait, I can't have them. So then that's kind of a thing. So that's kind of where I stand on the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I find that interesting though, like even where you stand right now, like if I'm meant to, then I will. And if I'm not, like that to me kind of feels like you know, connected to your position all along in terms of like kids, you know, if it
That is
happens, it
true.
happens. It's just, you know, a consideration of all these factors, but then just kind of being like, I accept whatever is meant to happen. And if I
Yeah.
need to intervene in some way to cause a certain outcome, then I'm okay with that too.
Right. And so it also makes me think about going back to what you were talking about, kind of the archetypes and what's so different from the past and from
Mm.
now. So when we think about not necessarily our mother's generation, but go to our grandmother's generation,
Mhm.
that generation was having babies.
Oh, Lord.
They was having babies. And
Yeah.
so it's, and then the generation before that, having babies. So it's
Yeah.
like you getting into the double digits at times. And so that reality is so different for so many
Mhm.
women now, where kind of like the average is around like 2.5 kids, even, well, at least in
Yeah.
the States.
Right.
So that reality is so different. And then the need, like what you need to then be. And so what's required of you. So if you have 10 kids, you might be a housewife, you might be a stay-at-home mom, and at the same time, because we were Black in America, you also probably were not at home. You were probably working and actually being somebody else, being a mother to somebody else's
Right.
white babies
Right.
or upper class babies or whatever. And so I feel like even with that, the pressures on motherhood, I think, are continuing to change,
Mm.
because I mean, it's just not as many kids.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? So I have 15 aunts and uncles, then plus
on,
my parents.
on one side or both sides?
No, together.
Okay.
So 15 total,
Mhm.
plus my parents. So that's 17
Oh,
total.
wow. Okay.
And I think what I did not know, so I
Mhm.
recently took a trip to St. Thomas with
Mhm.
with family, and my mom was there, of course, and that's where she's from.
Mhm.
And so, you know, just kind of driving around, her pointing out different places or just kind of talking about like history stuff. Like that was
Mhm.
like a nice um moment, because I feel like there's some things that she shared. There's some things that she shared that I had never known, you know, like nicknames that she had growing up and like just,
Mhm.
you know, some of her experiences. Um, and in talking, she ended up talking about like how she ended up leaving and then moving to New York,
Mhm.
you know, meeting my dad and all that stuff. And what I found really interesting in terms of some of the stories that she shared and stories that I heard was that for that generation, they, at least in part, were not having kids. The women were not having kids because they wanted to have kids. They were having kids because that was something that their husbands or partners wanted.
Mm.
And I found that incredibly interesting because I
Mhm.
think of that
That's
as a
interesting.
very contemporary thing in terms of women right now being like, well, I'm not into kids, you know.
Mm.
Um, but I never thought of it as like historical. It's like my mom or grandmother or great
Mm.
grandmother being in a position or just being of the mindset of like, you know, kids, I could take them, I could leave them. Especially with people having that many kids. Like I never thought of that in terms of like men being like, oh yeah, you know, I want a lot of kids, and the women being like, oh, you know, I'm not really feeling it. But again, to your point, like um women didn't have that sort of social and legal and economic
It's
like
true.
power to make that decision for themselves like we have now. So
That's such a good point. And even, and I think with that too, birth control being available,
also that,
and or there being other alternatives like abortion, where people are
right?
like, well, and I mean that alternative was probably there, probably wasn't as safe,
Exactly.
and that is really interesting. And I think now when I think about it even more, especially like being Black in America as a woman, and the history of that, and us, it birthing can be complex because there were women who were breeders, right? And
Mm,
then, or if you were nursing, you didn't get to nurse your child. You were you were nursing somebody else's
sure.
baby.
Yeah.
And we think, of course, of the story of Beloved,
Mm,
and how it's just like that mother wanted to protect her child from slavery. And so she's like, I'd rather I protect you from that. And so motherhood was complex because it's like, do I bring a child into this particular reality? And I think now, I definitely think that's a factor into women having children now too, because the world don't seem to be getting better necessarily. And I know people who are just like, I don't know if I can bring somebody into this mess, because this is hard. And even as you're talking about having a dark-skinned Black girl, and we know colorism is getting worse. I thought, I feel like it seemed, I don't even know what to make of things right now when it comes to just the way that race relations are going. I feel like it's like there was a point where people thought we were being in a post-racial society. And then of course it's like, no, but then it's just like, we have made some progress because people are connecting and and I'm just like, I don't think, it just seems like it's in some ways just, I feel like now that races are coming together, now there's the glorification of the racially ambiguous person. And so it's just, and the fetishization of that. And so it's just like, so what is going to happen to the little brown girls and the little brown and Black boys? It's just like, it's because it's just like, these features are like, they're even more exotic. Or what will happen is that after 100 years, because that will then be the norm, then the exotic thing will be the brown and the darker skin. Is that going to happen? So I'm just kind of curious about how this whole thing is going to play out. And it's not easy.
No. And, just given the history of the world, I don't envision a world where dark skin is revered in any way. But, one thing I know for sure, I will not be here to see that. Like, we are just not in a place socially where there's any sort of appreciation for people who are obviously Black people.
Let's not even get into Ukraine and that whole thing.
I was just thinking about that.
Do you know how hard that touched me when it was just like, I'm seeing the women, you might have seen it too, but she's just like, they're saying, no, go away. And she had to just walk and walk and walk and walk. And it's
I didn't see that.
And it's just like, okay, women and children first, but not Black women.
Right.
What? So being Black, my womanhood gets erased because I'm Black. So I'm not worthy of being protected.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
That junk hit me so hard. I was stuck on that. But okay, so with that though, let's adjacent to motherhood, then will be being this housewife, being this woman who is cooking, cleaning, ironing, and all this kind of stuff. How do you feel about it, Jackie? I'll start.
Go for it, please.
F your iron. I do not iron nearly as much as I did. Especially, it's partly this pandemic that has not helped my wardrobe at all or my fashion sense. Everything is stretchy. I've gained weight. It's like, if I gain weight, stuff don't fit.
Right.
Bras are like, I don't know, like they feel like, where's my brain? What is the thing, the straight jackets, bras are like,
yes, they do.
Wear them. I'm like, because it's like air up. You can't see nothing. You don't know what's these joints down here.
Correct.
Free. And I've been so free. Oh my goodness, when I go out, I still try to just be free. And of course, even when it comes to things that like girdles and Spanx and all that kind of stuff, the history of that is not good because it's women trying to fit their bodies into whatever this ideal is supposed to be. So that is, something that we need to contend with, I think, as women continuously, to like free the tatas in that sense, and free whatever other things, like free the bellies, free the fupas, free it all, And so, but I just feel like in this pandemic, I have been able to embrace that freedom more, and it feels so good. I'm just like, I've never been one into girdles and like Spanx and stuff. I don't like that feeling of just being pushed in, and I understand why women do it, because it makes it look neater. But it's just like, where does that come from? This whole idea of like, it's neater if your body doesn't look the way that it actually is. So that's a mind stuff. But either way, the whole point of that is ironing. Don't care about it no more. Cooking, I have been cooking more. Do I feel like how people will say like, oh, like if a woman cooks a good meal, they'll be like, oh, she ready. It's just like she ready for a husband. And it's just like, well, if she can't cook, she's still ready. What's wrong with that? It's
Correct.
okay. And
Correct.
especially, you know what makes her ready? Her being able to pay for DoorDash, her being able to pay for Grubhub. She ready. What about that? She
Yeah.
ready.
Mhm.
And cleaning, I love a clean house, so I can't
Me
eat it.
too.
But you can always be more clean. And so I started following this woman recently on Instagram, and it's a Black woman. She has this nice voice where she's just like, and now it's clean. And I'm like, oh, yes, and now it's clean. She's just been cleaning all kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, my whole thought on that is do what you want to do, and don't be nasty.
You know, I have fallen into like a lot of idiosyncrasies where it comes to cleaning and cooking in particular. Like
Mhm.
I like for things to be cleaned at a certain interim, meaning the kitchen needs to be clean every X number of hours. hours.
Really?
Yes.
What's your hour? I need to know your interval. What's your interval?
Okay, at least 24.
Okay, yes.
Like at minimum.
Mhm.
But I feel like you should not cook in a dirty kitchen.
That's so impossible.
And so if you are cooking breakfast and then dinner, then your kitchen needs to be cleaned twice a day.
Facts.
So, the bathrooms need to be cleaned at a certain interval.
I'm sorry, hold on. You just started to have this very specific air. Like I feel like your hands are like this.
I
and
do. It just needs to be
Your
done.
hands like this right here now. It's like
No, one of my hands is petting Belafonte, and the other
Okay.
hand is a little
But
like.
that works though too, because it's like you're like I'm petting my dog while I give you notification rules. It's just like the kitchen must be clean 24 hours.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think I'm more particular at the places where I can like almost visualize germs multiplying. Like I can see them. I can see them partying, and I can see them partying in a kitchen and a bathroom. So
Okay, do you feel like that accentuated post-pandemic, like once the pandemic and like our
Oh.
awareness of germs and stuff increased, or were you always like that?
No, I was always like that. There are
Okay.
things that I'll do now that I did not do before the pandemic. Like
Mhm.
now, if I'm cleaning the kitchen, of course, washing the dishes, wiping down the counters,
Mhm.
all of that. But now it also includes wiping down like the door handles, wiping down like the light switches and stuff like that. And I would do that every so often, just like in cleaning up. But now it's like part of the routine.
Mhm.
But also, my cleaning has fallen off during
Mhm.
the pandemic. Like
Mhm.
early on in the pandemic, like pre-vaccine and like we just didn't know how it was being spread, and we were wiping down our groceries and whatnot because they told us that's
Yeah.
what we had to do.
Wipe down in plastic bags. Okay.
Yes. Before,
I
like
never did that though.
I did. And I mean, a part of now that we're talking about it, like part of me, like my development into a clean and more like a disinfecting type of person
Okay.
actually started because I was teaching, and I felt like
One of them nasty kids.
I felt like I could set a clock by when I was going to get sick, like within the first 2 weeks of each semester,
Mhm.
during cold and flu season. Like I was getting sick 3-4 times a year.
Mhm.
And then I was like, where's the Lysol? Like I'm not even gonna say this on camera. I do not need anyone coming for me.
Say it. I need it.
Actually, I've seen parents do this. I would spray kids with Lysol. Like if they were like coughing or sneezing or whatever, I'd just be like, because I was just so tired of being sick.
Was this in your New York public schools?
I cannot confirm or deny that.
New York public school. This never happened.
Listen, they got their own fish to fry, so they do not need to be studying about me. But I've seen parents do that like on video during the pandemic. Again, during the initial time when we didn't know. Like I had hand sanitizer on my desk, and my students like it was almost automatic for them. If they coughed, if they sneezed, if they blew their nose, like they would immediately just get out of their chair, come to my desk and sanitize themselves. Like that was part of our classroom culture.
Oh, good.
And so just the idea of me, you know, wanting things to be clean because I was germophobic, like that developed and it just continued. So now like I clean at certain points in time and I love the environment and I want it to continue to exist, but I will also continue to use bleaches and other sorts of things.
Okay, question. So then I'm gonna ask you this. Okay,
Mhm.
one first question is, where did you learn your cleaning standards? Were they passed down or did you kind of learn them yourself? And then my second question is, are you of the no bleach camp or bleach everything, or like the all natural type of things, or it's just like I want the chemicals?
I there is no shame like the shame of a Caribbean mom or auntie.
Mm.
Like there is a look, a tone of voice that will let you know that there's a standard that you have not even come close to.
Okay.
So,
Can you
you
do the
know,
look? Can you do it?
I don't think I can do it like on command.
Okay,
But
okay.
I know because other people have said it to me that I have the look. And I really am working, well, I feel like I should work on it sometimes. And other times I'm like, you know, hey, it is what it is.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you know, so there have been many a time that I have cleaned my room or cleaned the bathroom when I was, you know, young, a kid. And then, you know, had my mom, aunt, whoever come in and be like, oh, you know, when do you plan on cleaning up? And then, you know, you just feel so like low, like, I thought it was clean. You know, so yeah, so there are certain standards that I am extremely familiar with. And yeah, I don't always clean to those standards, but
Mhm.
I do know what those standards are and when I do need to clean. Like if I move into a new place, I'm
Mhm.
definitely cleaning because my assumption is that whoever was there before was the filthiest person and I need to I need to clean to that like standard.
Gotcha.
So that's that. Um yeah, and then of course, like during the pandemic when I was germophobic, I cleaned to that standard. But
Mhm.
now, you know, I am working and not only just like working from home, but that I was used to even pre-pandemic
Mhm.
because, you know, being a student, but also having like jobs that were mostly like I could just work from home.
Mhm.
As long as I was producing whatever needed to be produced, then
Mhm.
it didn't matter where I was. Um, so having been used to working mostly at home for like years now, like 5 years now,
Mhm.
now I'm in a place where I actually have to go to um, campus and go to an office and
Mhm.
maybe not every day, but like when I do go, those days are long and it's not close. So I'm driving like 30 minutes each way. So, you know, it's just a different life. And the standards that I have are, you know, I've had to make my peace with the fact that they're not being
Gotcha. I feel like I learned different things, I think, from my mom, mostly just from my mom, just of like making sure stuff just looked, I don't know, just clean. And but
met.
I also know that there's some ancestor in me who was a neat freak because I remember very early on just being very particular. And my mom and I
Yeah.
were even talking about this the other day. She was like, when did you first realize you were like neat? And I'm like, I don't know. But I don't
Mm,
know if it might have been because my sister and I shared a room and my sister's just a little bit more messy than I am. And it's just kind of,
mm.
what is that? But it's just like very early on, it's just like,
Mhm,
just cleaning stuff as a kid
mhm,
or just making sure stuff was organized. It's like,
mhm,
I feel like I've always been that way. And yet, of course, I also know like I can up my standards because I think I used to work in a home office and the home, it was someone else's home office because
okay.
we were like a little small firm. And she had a maid,
Mm,
let me not say maid, she had a house cleaner, a housekeeper Yes, that would come in every month. And so I would watch how this person cleaned
Mhm.
and I would see just the difference. I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that. Oh, okay. And so it's
Mhm.
just like, I think seeing the professional do it made me kind of feel like, okay. And I think I started paying attention to different things like baseboards. Like
Mhm.
that's one thing, like baseboards, when baseboards are clean, that's when you know stuff clean, but you gotta have time for that. And then to me, the other things that are clean are like the doors, like when it's just like the dust around the doors or like the
Mhm.
dust on fans. It's just like I
Mhm.
can't, it's like my regular cleaning routine isn't, I haven't gotten to that level where I'm like, I'm
That's a part of
really
my
cleaning.
standard.
That's your standard, like cleaning
That's a
the
part of
dust
it.
off of the fans. I just don't, I haven't been doing it.
I haven't. So where we live now is the first place that we've lived that's had a ceiling fan.
Mhm,
Or I mean, yeah, but even before I got married, like I hadn't lived in a place that had a ceiling fan in a long time.
mhm.
Um, so now we have a ceiling fan, and I guess I could clean it, but you need like a special like
Yeah, you
broom
need
for
that little
that.
thing. Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm like, that I'm not gonna do all that unless like the next place. We knew that moving in here was gonna be short term because we were
Mhm,
just like moving cross country and everything.
mhm.
Um, if the next place that we move into, which we know we're going to be in there longer term, if that has a ceiling fan, then I'll invest in that, and then that will become a part of my thing. But yeah, like baseboards, that is, I won't do
Yeah.
it every time I clean the bathroom, but
Mhm,
like maybe once a month
mhm, mhm.
or once every other month at least. So
I would like to have one of those cleaning schedules where it's like, this is the weekly thing and these are the monthly things. I haven't gotten to that yet. I just kind of get to the
mhm,
point where it's like, it's starting to build up. I'm like cleaning, but not
mhm,
like in if I feel inspired to do the deep clean, if I have the time
mhm,
to do it, then I'll do that. Like get into like, because you can do like the kind of wipe down of the baseboard, but
mhm.
then another one of like, I'm really gonna like get this whole thing. I'm cleaning the walls, I'm cleaning everything.
Yeah, no, that's part of it. And I think I realized that because several years ago I lived in a place where I would clean the bathroom, but it would still smell like kind of old. Like maybe it was like an old building or something.
Okay. Mhm.
But when I washed the walls and the baseboards and just, got on the floor like that, it made a
Mhm.
huge difference. And so that became part of my
But
part
see,
of my
I mean
thing.
the baseboards in the whole house. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Oh,
I'm
gotcha.
saying like, yeah, you had a bathroom, but I'm like, when you
Hmm.
see like the baseboard cleans in the hallways, in the
Yeah.
living room, and it's just like
Yeah.
those times I'm like, I don't, it's like, I feel like I'm with you in terms of bathroom and kitchen. If that's
Hmm.
not clean, the house is dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so like, period. But
Yeah.
so it's just like I feel like bathroom and kitchen has its own level. And then the rest
Hmm.
of the house, I'm like, when do I have the time to like in my little office creative studio, clean all the baseboards? It's like I'm gonna
Right.
have to move furniture. I'm gonna have to, if I'm like, when am I cleaning the walls? Like that's the kind of like I wish I had a schedule for that. And I would like to, I
Hmm.
aspire to doing that one day. I'll get to it. I just haven't done that whole spring cleaning type of thing.
Yeah.
And with that, are you team bleach or not? For now, I am team bleach. I
Hmm.
do feel like I'm going to move toward more natural products, but right now I'm just like, I need to get this stuff
Mm-mm.
clean and I need the chemicals. I love
Yes.
Fabuloso.
Yes.
Fabuloso smells amazing.
Yes. I buy it by the largest
Okay,
size they have. Yes.
what cleaning product do you swear by?
I have several.
Okay.
So I use Clorox cleanup and the Clorox wipes.
Mhm,
Um, I of course now use like the Lysol spray to like spray
mhm,
stuff down and then like wipe it down. But I wasn't like a big Lysol person before.
mhm.
I use Barkeeper's Friend to like scrub
What is
things
that?
down. It's like a powder that you like scrub like the tub and stuff with.
Oh, see, I use Comet.
Yeah, so it's like Comet, but I like it better than Comet.
Where do you even get Barkeeper's Friend? That sounds like
You
some.
should. It's in like the same section.
Is
It's
it?
like
I've never
mhm.
seen that.
It's like a little powder. They also have like a soft scrub
Okay.
that I'll use sometimes if I remember to get it because I do like the soft scrub too.
Mhm.
Um, those are like the three like everything else is like a little bit of a rotational. Oh, Fabuloso, of course, that stays like you got
Fabulous.
to use the
Which
Fabuloso.
color?
Um, I most
I'm like,
frequently, all Fabuloso matters. I most frequently use purple, whatever that is.
that whatever the smell is. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
most
what
frequently use
fabuloso
Purge.
bases it smell off of. I'm
I
like,
don't.
whatever they say it is on the bottom, I'm like, I don't know what that is. It's purple, it's yellow, it's blue, it's orange.
Yeah.
They all smell
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So, so I'm not super picky on the smell, but I most frequently do get the purple one.
Mhm.
I was gonna say something else, and now I
Oh, I'm
forgot.
sorry. I just keep cutting in.
No, I can't remember what I was gonna say, but that's about it. I will say that like I have developed like the habit of not um mopping floors, that I
Mhm.
like hand wash the floors,
You
which
hand wash like elbows, knees down on the ground?
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah,
It's a workout.
yeah. So kitchen
Do
and
you have
bathroom.
knee pads? What are you using?
No, and I probably should, because by the time I'm done and I'm getting up, I'm like, whew, it is a struggle. But
Yeah,
but no, but that makes it easier to like make the baseboards and stuff a part of the
it's
routine
true.
for me.
That's true. Well then, okay, so we talked about external cleaning, and as a woman, ladies' night, we can get a little bit more personal. Let's talk about the physical cleaning of our
Yes.
bodies and hygiene. So, do you use a feminine wash? If
I
so, let's go right
don't.
in. Do you use a feminine wash? And if so, what kind?
I don't. I did at one point. It was what's like the popular one? Summer's Eve. I did
Summer's
use like
Eve, yeah.
Summer's Eve at one point, like when I was young and felt like that's what I had to do based on the commercials. And now I don't, and I think it's just because I know a lot more about like the fact that they're like, don't put anything up in there
Mhm.
except like, your period, whatever you use.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't use like any sort of special wash. I just, take my time and what's the word? Like
Clean
clean,
it.
yes. Clean it out and then
Take my time and
move on.
clean that thing.
Yeah. Yes. So, but not with any special wash. Just,
I had started Honey Pot, started using Honey Pot. So that
I've
was
heard a
one.
lot of good things about them.
And so I liked it. And then I was like, I want to try something different. And because I do like the Honey Pot sanitary napkins and stuff, those are fun. And
Mm.
then and I know John watching this or any guys it's ladies' night. You hear it
Yes,
now.
whatever.
And plus, if you have daughters or wives or
Yeah.
sisters, it's good to know these things. My brother, come on.
Yeah. We've been hearing all about y'all's dude wipes and whatever else y'all got. Y'all
They have dude wipes?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Where'd they get them? What?
I guess Target or
Okay, I gotta hear.
Walgreens or whatever.
So you know what? It would be fun if John did a comparable like men's night. Let's talk about our stuff. Anyway, so I was using Honey Pot for a second, and then I started using Amorphia. So Amorphia is this woman that I found online on Instagram, and her stuff is exquisite. Now it does give you, she has the oils in it, so it's giving you that same kind of like whew, like Honey Pot does, because Honey Pot uses essential oils, and so it gives you this kind of like freshness. It kind of feels like, you know how it feels like when you put a mint in your mouth, like
Yes.
and so it's like, oh, okay, that's different. And Amorphia products are good for that. And a lot of her products, people have said that they're healing them from all kinds of women's issues and things like that, like opening up their fertility a little bit or something. Because you know what? Honestly, women for so long, like as you said, we were told to douche and we have all these sanitary napkin products, just sanitary products that have all kinds of chemicals and dyes and made of just the worst things because they weren't made by us for us, they were made by other people. And so people have really developed so many issues, and I think a lot of them are related to the chemicals in these products. And so I feel like one thing I will say I feel is beautiful in this generation is more women taking control of that aspect of their health in terms of like, hey, let's like, now that we have more information and people are making more products. And like I love the story of the CEO of Honey Pot, who said it came to her in a dream. put these things together. And the way it's taking off, it's just taking off because it's working and it's helping women. And that I feel so good about that. So if you do know Omorphia though, OMORPHIA on Instagram, her products are great. I get
Where do you find them?
No, she's on Instagram, so it's like her site is there.
Oh, you got to order through her site.
Yeah, you have to order
Okay.
through her site. And so yeah, she's not in stores yet. She's like she's just, it's kind of funny, you know how you follow different people. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy for them. So she just get it. She just got her own factory now. Like, well, she got like a warehouse building. And so she just showed a picture of that the other day, and I'm so happy for her. Because her products are good, and I've shared them with like my mom and I shared it with my sister and like my roommate. My mom, but it's just like her feminine wash. I've used her oil. It's just like an oil that you put down there, and a lot of women enjoy it for that sexy time, and men enjoy it. And so her products are great, and I really love her stuff. So I highly recommend it.
I might have to try it out, and then we can have a review when we have our second episode.
Everybody who's tried so far has appreciated it. It hasn't necessarily cured everything, but they appreciate it. And so there's the feminine side. And what about our skincare? Can you tell us a little bit about your skin, Jackie? I will say, even though you have a face, you got the beat face right now. It's still not like overbeat. You always had beautiful skin to me. Like anytime I see you, I'm just like, ooh, it's so poor. I feel like your skin is poreless. Can you tell us a little bit about your skincare routine?
Yeah, I wish I had like a good, great, fabulous one. I feel like as I get older, I'm trying to establish one that's like very good. But I used to use a charcoal wash on my skin. And then I went to get a facial one day and the esthetician was like, oh, tell me about your skincare routine. And I was telling her that, I use this charcoal wash. And she was like, no, like, stop that. Like you have, I guess like a certain type of skin that if you're using that every day, it's probably because I have like skin that's on the drier side. If you're using that every day, that's going to really dry out your skin. Like you need to use a creamy cleanser is what she called it. And I had never heard of that. And I was like, all right, well, let me head on down to the little, CVS, Walgreens, whatever, check out whatever creamy cleanser I can find. And so now that's what I use in terms of my face wash. I have another soap, and I really can't even remember what it is, but it's like a little bit heavier that if I'm wearing makeup, I'll wash with that soap first to get the makeup off. It's like a makeup removing soap. So I'll use that, and then I'll use my creamy cleanser. And I don't remember the brand of it. I just bought whatever was on sale when I went to the store last time. But the thing that I've gotten into is like the serums and stuff. So right now I use a chia seed oil on my face every day. That's such a good question. It's something that I found in Target.
Okay.
Like a little bottle. Like Target now has like a whole, like it's a whole thing at Target.
Yeah,
like the beauty section.
They've upgraded, seriously.
Right. Yeah. So I use that, and I feel like I really see and feel a difference in my skin. Like my skin feels like really, really soft now that I started using that. So I think I'm gonna continue using that chia seed, but then the chia seed oil. But then the other thing that I use when I remember is it's from the Ordinary Skin line. You can get it at, I think, Ulta. I use their hyaluronic acid, and then I use their vitamin C extract or something, cream or something, who knows. My goal is to use it like once or twice a week, because I was using it every day and it did start to like mess with my skin. So I stopped using it for a while, and then I went back to using it less frequently, and that helped. But that is my skincare. When I have time, I did buy a face steamer, and I use it.
One so bad. I haven't gotten one of those yet.
I've seen them at Target now for like $20, and I like my little steamer, to be quite honest. Like sometimes I'll try to steam my hair with it, but it doesn't quite work. But that's a different story. But yeah, so when I have time, I'll use like my little steamer, Love a good scrub, or whatever, exfoliating, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I don't have anything that's like super consistent other than wash my face with my creamy cleanser and use
What's your creamy cleanser?
it's just my face soap, and it was just whatever was on sale. Like, I do not remember the
So
brand.
you one of them people. See, you still one of them people who could just be like, I just use bar soap, and we're like, what? I gotta do five
I
different.
did. I did at one point. I did at one point. I remember in college, I washed my face with like the hand soap in the bathroom, like
Mhm.
every so often. Like, I never really washed my face. It was just like, I would like put water on it in the shower, but to say that I have like soap that I'm using on my face, that was never a thing.
So basically, you're telling us that your genes are good and that you do a little bit of something to kind of maintain it and to make it better.
Shout out to my dad because he has very perfect skin.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. That's a
Yeah.
horrible, horrible. I just continue to think that was just such a terrible tagline. It's just
Yeah.
like, dang, really? Maybe she's born with it. Mate, that's kind of messed up. But
Yeah.
I can say for me, I'm born with my dad's skin for the most part. He
Mm,
had oily skin, but it's like
mm,
I feel like I'm kind of like a mixture or something. I don't even know, but I have
probably.
not. I've used all kinds of things, and right now I feel like my face is still recovering because I'm definitely not one of those people who can just put anything on my face, but I'd be doing
Mm,
that anyway.
mhm.
And so one day when I didn't have any soap, but the place where I was had the Bronner's um, lavender soap, you know, that Bronner.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
And so I put it on my face. It was a terrible idea. My face like dried out and just, it still
Oh,
has, it's been like
wow.
almost, it hasn't been a year, but it's been like 7 months. And it's still like, I've been trying all kinds of things to just kind of like get my skin back to where it was. And
Mhm.
it just hasn't been working. And probably part
Wow.
of the issue is that I keep changing things to try to
Mm,
fix it. But it's just
yeah,
like my face had just continues to react. And I'm just like, ah. So
yeah.
I'm still trying to figure things out. So one night I had a dream, just like the honeypot lady.
Mhm.
In my dream, I went back to an old product that I used years ago. And so I was like, okay, let me buy this old product because I hadn't thought about it. So I started using that. And so far it's been helping.
Mm,
And which is just some clean and clear daily cleanser. It's like in an orange
yeah.
container with microbeads. And those
Mhm,
microbeads are terrible for the environment because they're like plastic or something. And they
mhm,
go into the water supply. And that's where I am though now. That's just what I'm using. I still feel like I need something else. I've just been putting shea butter on my skin and like coconut
mhm,
oil, which I also know isn't the best. And so I got to figure that out. There was a point where I was using some kind of serum. I think I was using argan oil, and I think that
mm,
was kind of doing something. But I really feel like I need to go to an esthetician so they can tell me like, hey, this is kind of the combination of things that you need because
mhm,
I tried to use these products from Kiehl's. There was
mm.
these two different masks that I had used years ago that when I did it in the store, it just like my skin was glowing for weeks. And so
Wow.
I bought them personally, and it's just my skin reacted so poorly to it. And so I was just like, okay, so maybe it was that time. That was when I was in Boston. I was
Right.
outside more. Maybe different things were happening with my skin. And then also my skin still trying to recover from this whole thing with this lavender Bronner's. And so it wasn't ready for that. So I bought that. And so I'm just like, man, I just feel like I'm in a standstill of trying to figure out face products. And
Mhm.
but I'm gonna figure it out. I would love to have like a neighborhood esthetician. Like I need to know, and that's like somebody who's my homegirl esthetician. I don't know anybody who is to just
I
be,
don't either.
or I know I could just go to one or go to a dermatologist to just say, okay, what is like what do you think is going on here and get some recommendations, kind of like you did. I would love that. So
Mhm.
hey y'all, people, if you know a dermatologist or an esthetician who can help in this way, please let me know.
Yeah.
I would love a little bit of help there. But overall, I think my skin is okay. I love my mom's skin. My mom has like this perfect poreless skin, but also
Mm,
being poreless, that's a thing, right? In
yeah.
terms of a beauty standard of what your face is supposed to look like. Because even
Yeah.
when it comes to having makeup, the whole idea is like, you know, the skin needs to be even and needs to do this. And, you know, faces aren't like that. People have different colors in their skin, and it's
Mhm,
actually okay. We're just getting accustomed to thinking that this is what skin is supposed to look like.
mhm.
So, with that, let's move to the topic of beauty, you know, as a
Mm,
woman, and how do we practice beauty, and what do we even think about like beauty standards? I have so many thoughts about it. But one thing I will say is filters, I think, are ruining us online and ruining our expectations for what we're supposed to look like. And those, I think we're becoming microcritical, even more, just microcritical of all of our features. And we're not getting, we don't know what faces actually look like, I think. And I think that the faces that are out there more and more are just like, one, they're either it's plastic surgery, it's Botox stuff, or the level of makeup that's out there now is different from what just was there previously, which is just like kind of touching up and making it, look camera ready, supposedly, even what that means. But now it's the heavy contouring, which literally changes the shape of your face.
Right.
I think that's a whole different standard of what people are supposed to look like now. And I'm feeling like it's uncomfortable. And I really do feel like we might need to get to a place where filters can be banned, because I think they were at a point at first where they're fun and they're playful and you can do these things. And now I think it's really turning into something that's harmful for people's self-image, body image, self-esteem, and all of that. And it's really changing a generation's understanding of humans, because the world is going digital so much that a lot of human interaction is online and through some type of device where you can apply a filter. Even FaceTime now, I think you can like apply filters.
Really?
So if I'm not mistaken, it was something I wasn't on Instagram, the Instagram video. Either way, it was, but on FaceTime, how instead of having your actual face, you can do like the little animal face or whatever. Have you ever spoken through the little memoji thing?
Oh, like on a text message, yeah.
Oh, okay. And so
Yeah.
like all of those things, it's like you can just change your face. You don't have to be there. And I think that's very interesting. It says something about human interaction and also people's comfort with themselves, their own faces and other people's faces, because there's, now that everybody has been using Zoom a whole lot more, just some kind of online conferencing since the pandemic, people have been researching the effects of watching yourself and what that does communicating with other people, because it is very I guess we could say, unusual to be in conversation with someone and see yourself at the same time. So then you can therefore be critical of how you look. That's a very abnormal experience, really, when it comes to just human interaction. I'm not seeing myself interact with you. I'm just interacting, but now you have this new view of yourself. And of course you can become more critical. And so I feel like I don't know where our nation is going, or well, the world is going with this, but I think we are going to need some interventions pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've been thinking about on a number of levels, just in terms of like beauty and how I like show up in the world. I think one, sometime last semester, I had a conference with a student. And I do like my office hours and such on Zoom, and we had class in person. So in class, we're all wearing masks, so we really don't have any idea what people look like. And then on Zoom, you don't necessarily have to wear a mask if you're in your own place. So I remember getting on Zoom, and this one student was like, "Whoa, you look way different than I thought you would." And
that's what they said?
Yes.
Come on, keep it inside, kid. Keep it inside.
And I remember thinking the same about this student, like, oh, would not have guessed that. But I didn't necessarily speak on it.
That's funny.
But I think it did make me like really self-conscious, because moving into a new place, of course you're meeting people for the first time and establishing like you just have like this very high concentration of first impressions that you're making on people. But at this point it feels like it feels like two first impressions, because you're meeting people masked, and then at some point, like we just got an email from our college president saying that they're reconsidering masking in light of the new CDC guidelines. And so I'm like, well, that's going to be like a whole nother first impression, because we're now seeing people. But also thinking about that in terms of like some of my students are juniors and seniors and have never really been in classrooms where they have their full faces. And so I'm just like thinking about how our standards of beauty at the same time, like we're watching IG and TikTok and like all these other things where these perfect people are appearing all the time. So that's definitely something that I've been grappling with. And then during the pandemic, I've been playing with makeup too, just because it was something to do. Maybe, now that I think about, like, maybe it was influenced by like these videos and just seeing like all these influencers have like these perfect faces and these perfect applications, but then also being like, well, I got time, so I might as well try to see what I can do, whatever. But yeah, it's just making me think about like, I've never been like a big makeup person. Like, when I think about people who have known me for years, like they may have seen me with, little makeup here and there if there's like a special event or something. But in terms of being like that everyday, I got a face on person, that has never been me. But, now I'm at a place where I'm like, is this how I want to emerge out of the pandemic when we're maskless? One, just in thinking about what makes me feel more confident in showing up, but also in thinking about, I now have this professional role, and professional women have like this expectation of being like put together and made up and all of that. So I don't know, it's something that I'm like grappling with.
And I mean, and then there's the research too that shows that women who wear makeup advance farther in their companies because they are assumed to be more professional or more put together. And that's interesting because men know how to do that. Men absolutely, more than like, unless men who like to wear makeup, there can be some men who like to wear makeup. And yet I think overall there isn't that kind of requirement for men to say, okay, there's something that you do in particular that makes you look more professional, that's in terms of makeup, unless it's like staying groomed in terms of having like a groomed beard or having a haircut or things like that. But it's like women are so judged based on their appearance and the assumption of what it takes for them to look like that. So it's like, okay, if you're doing all this, that means you have to get up, you have to do this, you had to. So it's like, so that means I'm more put together because my face is beat. Come on. At the same time, that's just where we are now, because because I think even I wonder, when Alicia Keys kind of did her whole anti-makeup movement, I don't know where she is now with it, but it's just like, it's not common for us to see celebrities without makeup. And I think that if all celebrities just stop wearing makeup, people will be like, what is going on with them? And it's the truth. It's like, I don't know, did you remember the Black Girl sketch show on HBO? They did a segment on, it's not called a segment, but they did like a little funny thing segment on a woman not wearing makeup one day at work and people just thinking she was sick. And so it's just like, ugh, it's just she's just not wearing makeup. But that happens all the time when it's just like, say you always wear your lashes or you always whatever, and then you come to work without it, people are like, what's wrong with you? And it's just like, nothing, I'm just not wearing the makeup. And it's just like, well, they put it back on. It's just like, come on, no, man. It's just like, it's okay for us to have actual faces that have like different coloration, like it's actually okay. And at the same time, it's also okay to want to accentuate things. I just think that there needs to be a place where we can say, okay, like I do think there's some lines in the sand that we need to draw around makeup. I think there are special occasion makeup. I think there is, and someone could argue, well, every day is a special occasion. It's just like, okay, sure, yes, damn it, okay. But then at the same time, there is like theater makeup or things like that that need to show up. Because I feel like this super heavy contouring that's happening, a lot of it this was already happening in operas and things like that, where you need like stage things, where you need to see that kind of dramatic, because it helps accentuate expressions from afar. And so it's like, okay, we need that like heavy contouring to be like, if a person is supposed to be angry, then you have this like angry thing and you have it like, it's like, it made sense. But you don't need that right up front. I don't need that heavy contouring. It's like, it's just kind of crazy to me. It's just making us not used to regular people. And with that, I think something I mentioned in the mini-so is the whole idea of Black women not cracking. So it's like, Black don't crack. And it's just like, Black be cracking. And I think Black women in particular now more than ever are having this pressure that we are supposed to be ageless. Women are already supposed to be ageless, and beauty is associated with youth more than it is associated with age. Because it's like, beauty fades, but character is forever. And it's just like, So if you tell me that, if you're saying that beauty phase, according to the Bible, or according to whoever wrote it, or whoever, then beauty is not something that you can have older. Like, does it mean that
Mm.
in my youth, that is what beauty is? What does it mean to be an older person? Does beauty escape me? And I think that's really, really problematic, because it's our perspective on what beauty is. And older people are not without beauty. And I think it's unfortunate that we look at wrinkles as being something that is beautyless, or something that lacks it. And I think we can change our perspective on that. And I want to continue to change my perspective on that, not just because I'm aging myself, but because I think it's unfortunate that we associate youth with like the best of life. And it's just like, you're young for a period of time. Your whole life is in something to be enjoyed and something to be beautiful. So I continue to grapple with that whole idea of aging, and aging meaning that you are now without beauty, and that as a woman you become invisible. So it's, how people get married and they're going somewhere and people are kind of hollering at them or whatever, and it's like, oh, I still got it. It's like we need that affirmation from others to feel kind of like, oh, I still got it, like, I'm still out there. And that goes to a whole other idea of like being consumable, or I think being something that other people want, and how that can be validating for us, because of how especially women are positioned in society as things that need to be consumed, or as products and as commodities. And so I think that especially needing that feeling of someone wanting me is important for women in particular. And I think for men too, but women, I think we feel the pressure in a different way. But with that, I want to move away from all of that, to feel like I don't have to. Do I desire to be visible? I've been feeling that in some ways, like you go somewhere and nobody looks at you. It's just like nobody care, or as I'm getting older, you reach that point where the young guys are not paying attention, or no one's paying attention, because you have now aged out of that consumable period of your life where people desired you. And I'm like, I don't want that. Why does it have to be that I have to feel desired by someone else to feel worthy, or to feel like I got it? It's just like, I got it, period. It's not about being visible. So I'm trying to contend with all of those things, because as I get older, I don't want to be wrestling with that at all. And I feel like it's like there in my brain, like trying to like bring me down as a woman and as an aging woman. Like, nah, I'm not.
Yeah, I wonder if like I'm getting a lot of like that sort of counter messaging that you're talking about, because I'm like in that age group that's producing a lot of that. Whereas like maybe existed before, but I wasn't necessarily paying attention to it because I didn't feel like it applied to me as a young whippersnapper, And so, and I also wonder, how things might potentially change over the next 10, 15, 20 years in terms of how we think about people over certain ages, just given the proliferation of social media. I think that older folks, like, baby boomers, they have like a bad reputation when it comes to anything related to technology. Like I think of like that, that I don't even know if I can do it with that, like that angle.
Why is it so clear? Like immediately we do that. So we know it's that.
Yes,
it's so true.
Yes, and in fact, I just remembered like at some point I was on like Zoom with like some friends, and I had like my laptop. I don't know. I was sitting in a weird position. I think I was like on the couch and like had it like on the arm or whatever. Anyway, so my friend was like, "Fix your laptop. You look like a boomer. Like, why? Why do you have that angle like that?"
Such a pejorative now.
Yeah. But, I think about how there are folks who are older who are now producing really good social media content and, showing their lives, showing, whatever, like the quality of their content is on the same level as you know, a Gen Zer or, you know, like the youths who be out there doing the little TikTok dances and whatnot, just like in terms of like their quality.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of wonder if that now opens up space for us to actually see what it means to be
Mhm.
older in terms of like the everyday, not necessarily the pejorative or the stereotypical.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I wonder if that just gives us more like visual options to see like, oh, this is what life looks like,
Yeah.
you know, here are these stereotypical folks over here doing the that, and then here's a whole bunch more people who are just living their life, you know, enjoying retirement, doing, you know, whatever it is that older folks do,
Mhm.
and having a great time, and just like setting an example for people to be like, you know, I might be interested in that as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I just kind of wonder how social media might influence our perception of aging,
Mm.
with like these influencers who are out there living their best life as aged people.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I follow, I started following AARP's page on Instagram because they had this campaign called Disrupt Aging, which is,
Mm,
you know, ageism and stuff. And I feel like it's important to pay attention to things like that. So I love that you said that. I look forward to that too. And I think it's important to have different just have more of a variety of people out there, because I think too we look to celebrities again about what it means to age, and it's just like celebrities have a whole different life than us, like in terms of
right.
their access to different types of things and to different
Sure do.
wellness strategies or wellness like methods and stuff. Like who was it Russell Wilson and Sierra,
Oh
like
yeah.
he had a what's one of those chambers? I just forgot the name of it. It's the hyperbolic chamber or something like that. It's just like
I
you
don't know.
actually hold on. Let me make sure that's hyperbaric chamber. That's what it is.
Mm,
Where you
mhm.
can like get fresh oxygen and stuff into your body and stuff. And it's just like you
Wait,
actually have one in
they
your
have that in
house.
that house, in their house?
They had one or something. I just remember them saying like they go into it. And I'm like, so I can't be looking at Sierra, what Russell,
Yeah.
what people like that. It's just like you
Yeah.
have access to completely different things. And I remember
Mhm.
looking at Kelly Rowland did her skincare routine one time, and she was talking about these different little things that she was doing. I'm like, you're going somewhere to get all this kind of stuff done to your skin.
Right.
And I love that they have the opportunity to do it, but I think that sometimes that can create unrealistic expectations for
Absolutely.
the general public. And the same with, you know, people that we look to, like we're like, oh, look at Angela Bassett, look at Nia Long, look at all
Right.
these beautiful women. And not to say that we don't see in everyday life beautiful Black women who have amazing skin and things like that. I just think that it's not helpful for us to look to celebrities sometimes to say, this is what it means to be a Black woman. Like, this is what it means to look like this way. It's just like, that's a completely different lifestyle. Like, beauty
Correct.
is not a part of my job necessarily either. So it's just like, I don't know. It's something I can
Correct.
just contend with, because I'm just like, for me, I know I need to look in different places, and that I don't have to look to that. I just feel like it's kind of hard to get away around those messages that are just out there about being a Black woman and looking to these people to say, this is what it looks like. Like, I really don't like seeing those. I know it's supposed to be affirming, but I don't like those messages that you might have seen that have been out there like, oh, you know, us millennials are killing it more than Gen Z. It's just like, all right, us
Are
millennials.
we?
Well, no, you know how that it'll be like one person doing a picture of themselves being like, man, I'm making the 20-year-olds jealous and stuff like that. I'm
Mhm.
like, why are we doing this? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, I look better than the 20-year-olds. It's like these 40-year-olds out here making y'all look like trash. And I'm just like, what are we doing this for? Like, why are we pitting different age groups against age groups so that we
Yeah.
can feel better? It's that whole idea of, you know, you don't have to put out another person's shine in order to shine yourself,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
And I think we gotta, like, I don't have to be like, oh, I'm better than this 20-year-old, or it's like I'm making these, it's just like, for what? Like, just enjoy your own life and just be good with yourself. It doesn't have to be like, man, I'm 45 and I look like, it's just like, just love yourself for how you are, period. Can we do that? Period. So with that, last thing I think we can talk about as ladies' night is the whole
Mm.
idea of friendship as we get older and being a woman. And what's our story? What is our story of friendship as millennial women, 2022 Where are we?
Oh, Lord. I don't know. I feel like I have to acknowledge that the pandemic has um, affected and like shaped my friendships more than anything else. Like when I'm talking
Mm,
about like my long-standing friendships, like friends that I've had, for 10, 15, 20 years, like the
mm,
pandemic has really affected that. But I think
mm,
more so the pandemic has affected us as individual people.
mm,
Um, and that of course shows up in relationships.
mhm,
Um, but all that all of that, not aside, but like in consideration,
mhm,
um, but I am thankful that um, a lot of my female friendships defy stereotypes that I still continue to hear. And part
mhm.
of that is like having gone to a women's college, hearing people say all the time, like, oh, I
Where
could
did you
never.
go?
I went to as I have to, because I am an HBCU alum. So I have to say these next two words.
Okay.
I went to the illustrious, the illustrious Spelman College.
Yay.
But having gone to a women's college, like I've heard people say all the time, like, oh, I could never go to a women's college. Like women's relationships are too catty and contentious and petty and jealous, like all of these sorts of stereotypes. And that it annoys me because I'm like, that has not been my experience. At least, like, I feel like if someone is going to be catty or petty or whatever, that's the nature of their person and not necessarily the nature of their gender.
Mhm.
And so, um,
Snap on that.
yeah, so I feel really thankful that, I've been able to have these really, genuine relationships with women, also have really genuine relationships with men, but just in thinking about how the relationships that I have with women just defy these stereotypes. And so
Mhm.
I'm thankful for that.
Yes, I feel I am so with you on the pandemic being, I don't even know. I don't know what all the adjectives would be, but clarifying in terms
Mm,
of I don't know if I would say that either. Let me say it like this. I think the pandemic has just changed the way we live and has changed the way that we interact with others, period. And I think that some friendships don't survive these kind
mm,
of really hard periods.
yeah.
There it's almost equivalent to like a mass depression. Well, some people were depressed and other people others might have used this time to like re-energize depending on where they were in life and what circumstances they found themselves in. So depending on what kind of job situation you're in, you can experience this pandemic very differently, right?
Mhm.
What I can say for myself and a lot of people in my community is that this took us and it has exhausted us. It's made us tired, and a lot of us have just very minimal capacity for
Yes.
engagement at all. Like
Yes.
we are tired the little time that we do have. We're not trying to engage with nobody else. I'm just trying to like stare into emptiness or stare into a TV screen or stare into some screen to kind of suppress or numb or whatever. It's like I don't necessarily have that energy to talk to other people and to engage. That has been more often than not. And of course, yes, you still have conversations and stuff with people, and we have friends, and we do this type of thing. I feel grateful for this Street Academy podcast because it's helping us stay connected, right? Because you
Yes.
now your moods and everything, but not
Yeah.
just that. It's just like this keeps us talking in that. I love that, right?
Mhm.
So this is a format in which we can continue to engage. And yet,
Mhm.
if I didn't have this with I don't have this with other friends, so it's like
Mm.
I don't have that thing that makes us make sure to keep in contact with each other.
Yes.
And so we're just tired. And so I think too, I think SNL did a sketch about it. It was like once it's people you haven't seen since the pandemic started. And so it's kind of like, what's that first conversation? It's kind of awkward. It's kind of like, hey, how are you?
Mhm.
Oh, it was a pandemic. I mean, I'm still here. Like it's like the
Yeah.
next question is like, yeah, it's been like, how have you been? It's like, And for me, one of the answers is like up and down and all around. That's one of my answers, because I'm just like, it's been so many different things. I've experienced so much in these past few years, especially since I haven't seen you. It's like, I don't know how to give you a summary of everything that has happened, but it's like one of my friends and I, we had to have a conversation about, well, what do we need to give each other? Like, what is it that, because we want to maintain friendship. And so we recognize that our engagement has changed. So what is our capacity? Yeah. And my answer was, I ain't got it. And her answer was, me either. So it's like, all right, then. So what that means is we both know we ain't got it. It's not personal. We're going to connect when we're going to connect. So it's not even like well, let's try to connect every month. We can't. I don't even trying to think about trying to schedule it once a month. It's too much. So, but we know we have rock solid, diamond deep love for each other. Yes, that's not going away. We just don't have it right now. I can't expect anything of you, and I have no expectations of you. And you don't have any expectations of me. I just know that we in the friendship for the long run. It's just this period of time where we both know we just kind of like, I'm gonna catch you when I catch you, not because there is not complete love. And the thing is, all friendships aren't like that. There are some friends where it's like, well, I still kind of need to check in once a week. And it's just like, okay, well, if that's the case, I'm down for that as well. Or I'm going to try. It hasn't been working. Not the best. You know who you are, friend. I love you. But it's just like, we still try. We do the best that we can. But I think communication is so important when it comes to friendships during this period, because it's not that I wouldn't want friendships to end because people are like, well, you weren't there for me, or whatever. It's just like, no, I mean, communicate, talk about it, because I think people can jump to those conclusions about, well, the pandemic will show you who your friends really are. That's not true. That's not true. The pandemic is hard. It's been, and then not just that, there's a pandemic on top of just growing up and continue to age out of those scenarios where you were in close quarters with people constantly. So being in our mid 30s now, I feel like it's at the place where mid to late 30s, I guess we could say now. I'm not in college. I don't have a dorm situation where I'm constantly around friends. And now I feel like the older I get, my friends are becoming more and more dispersed around the country. So it's not like, it's just like, hey, let's get together for the weekend or something like that. Or let's, have a dinner, or, hey, you want to just come with me to the mall while I go look for this thing? It's different. It's a different kind of engagement. And so I feel like as we get older, we have to just maintain friendships in a different way. And I'm still just learning that. And I am amazed at people who have a ton of different friends and different friend groups and stuff, because I'm like, I don't know how you maintain all of this. I know I have my capacity. It's just like, I love people and I think they're great. I just look at some people, I'm like, wow, you engage with a lot of different people and I don't know how you do it, but kudos to you. And just like what you're saying in terms of like the cattiness and stuff that people expect of women, I never really have had friendships like that. And I'm grateful for that. So I can say as a 21st century Black woman, I don't have any really engaged in catty friendships. I feel like we are good communicators and we try to talk through different challenges. I've seen different friends on the periphery have issues with different types of people, and I'm just really a part of it. I'm not really a big drama person, and if I do have issues, I try to own it. I try to own what I've done, and try to be honest, and I think that works. I try to be transparent with it. So yeah, I'm not team no new friends. I'm team whoever comes and we're into each other, and like, why not? Like, I don't have to, I'm game for meeting somebody in my 40s who will become a lifelong friend. Like, I'm game for meeting somebody in my 50s who will become a lifelong friend. I want to have friends wherever they come. Like, I'm excited. And I think especially, I will say this, and we haven't talked about like religion and spirituality as women, and we won't have time for that today. I will say though, as a person who is no longer a part of the religion that I grew up in, having that church community was really important. And so I feel like now I really am seeking community in different ways. And that has been, and it was like seeking community in different ways on top of being in the pandemic at that same time where that exodus was happening. So it's just like, where can I find that kind of like round community of like a bunch of people and a bunch of girlfriends. So we do have that ladies' night, because I'm not married yet, and I doubt I'm going to have a huge bridal party. I really don't even
Mm.
want a huge bridal party. I just want like my sister, to be honest, and just keep it simple.
Mhm.
But like I don't think I would have ever been that person to have like 10, 15 people in a bridal party. I was not a part of a sorority or anything like that. And yet at the same time, that doesn't mean I don't want some girl. I want my homegirl. So I'm like, who would I invite to my ladies' night? You know,
Mhm.
and how
Mhm.
big would I want this ladies' night to be? So that's gonna be something in my head. And I'm like, I want a ladies' night. Like it would be great to have a ladies' night one day and
Yeah.
or be invited to a ladies' night. I did have a ladies' night the other day with one of my friends invited me over for movies, and it was like 5 of us or something like that. And they were kind of her friends. And
Mhm.
so I think we just need to have more times like that. We can just talk and chill and talk about anything and talk about what it means to just be here and just share things in a way that we don't always get a chance to do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate all of the things that you said. I think, well, maybe I'll save that for our takeout boxes. I know we're moving into closing up, but yeah, I appreciate everything that you just said.
Well, let's just go into it.
Mhm.
We are at time now. So what is your takeout box, Jackie?
Yeah, I mean, I just listening to what you were just saying, just reminded me of how important it is right now and just generally to give each other grace, and I think
Mm,
that that's something that has been in my mind in terms of like the different friendships that I have or relationships generally that, you
mhm,
know, for a lot of reasons, like right now is really tough and people are
mhm,
responding to that in different ways. And so um, I know that there are times that I have wanted to show up in certain ways and just didn't have the capacity to, like, I just didn't have it to give. And so I couldn't.
mhm,
And the same way that I want people and have had people be like, no, it's all good, girl. Like we living through a
mhm,
whole situation, not
mhm.
even just this pandemic, but we living in the US and living in an anti-Black world and all of that. Like if you need a
All
moment,
the
take a moment.
things.
Yeah, take a moment. So, I've been trying to be more cognizant of extending that to friends and family and
Mhm,
other folks who just don't show up in the ways that I would want them to or expect them to,
mhm.
because they might need to take that time and that opportunity to show up for themselves in ways that they need
That
to.
part, yes.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And then, you also just had me thinking about how life continued through the pandemic. Like
Mhm,
in it before in 2019, I was I was not working. I didn't have like a full-time job, like
mhm,
of course always working, but like not in the traditional sense. I was a student. I wasn't single, but I wasn't married.
mhm,
So
mhm.
living on my own, they're just like a lot of different things. And now that we are moving into the endemic, I guess, endemic,
Mhm.
whatever, like
Whatever
just
they
not
may
being,
want to
yeah,
call
just, yeah, not
it.
being, I am now a wife and a resident of the Northeast and
Very
a
different.
doctor and a professor. Like I'm a whole bunch of different things that I
Mhm,
wasn't before the pandemic started.
mhm,
And so what does that mean for um our like my relationships with family and friends and all of the like being a whole different person, like in terms of carrying a bunch of different identities that I didn't have before, like that's
mm,
certainly going to show up in different ways. So that's
mm,
something that I'm thinking about that I don't think I was thinking about before.
Hope that's a better, hope that's good.
I hope so too. I hope so too. I mean, I do think that I do think that it's funny because there's this like running joke that I have with family. Like,
Mhm,
if something's wrong with someone and I'm like, oh, I think that you have COVID or I think that broke your ankle or whatever it is,
mhm.
just kind of giving your WebMD opinion about whatever it might be. And then folks are like,
WebMD will have you thinking you got cancer every single time.
listen, listen. So, just offering my little 2 cents or whatever. Of course, people are like, are you a doctor? And I'm like, actually, I am. And they're like, are you a medical doctor?
Didn't talk about
So, yeah.
it.
So there's like this little running joke between like family members and stuff. But it certainly has showed up like at different points. Like I'll say something, people be like, oh yeah, that's so smart, no wonder you're a doctor, so it like those little things have let me know that people are recognizing these different parts of my identity. How that actually like shows up in terms of our relationships, I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll see.
Got you. So let me think. For my takeout, I'm taking out that I want some serums like how you got. So I'm getting me some serums. I'm getting me some face serums. I really want to do that. And I think intentionality again. So like how you went to someone and they told you, hey, you need this kind of thing for your skin. It's that kind of thing, like being intentional, I think is important. And I want to continue to just be more intentional. And I think being intentional with the things, especially as being a Black woman, and like you said, all of the anti things that are out there, and being intentional about what I take in and making sure that trying to not take in things that reinforce the beliefs that I don't want to have anymore, whether it's about aging or it's about being invisible, whether it's about beauty, friendships, women being catty, these different archetypes of womanhood that I don't agree with or that I don't want to live out, the idea of the strong Black woman trope, like all of those things that I'm like, how can I intentionally move in another direction, but not in a sense where I'm so focused on not doing something that I just end up becoming that thing anyway, because it's like, don't think of an elephant, you think of an elephant. So right. I'm like, let me just move towards tigers, and lions and bears. Oh my, like move towards those things and be intentional about that and live my best life, and live my best happy life as a woman, making my own choices for myself and not being beholden to the past or beholden to the tropes even of today, just choosing to make my own path as a woman. I feel like that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to be working toward. Starting with my serums. So this has been a wonderful conversation with the 21st century women out here in these streets. These are our stories. We hope that this has given you some things to think about. Ladies, we hope that this has given you some things to think about. Men, and also individuals who are non-gender conforming. Please, I hope this is giving you some things to think about as well. Men, I will say, make sure if you want to, do something for your woman, get her some Amorphia and get some of that oil too, because she'll be like, oh, okay. And it will benefit you as well. So that's the thing. And also women are women, whatever, you get the whole point. And so this again has been another episode of the Street Academy podcast, where we have one foot in the academy and one foot in them scrizzies. You can find us on @Street Academy Podcast on a whole bunch of things. So check us out. Jackie's at Jackie Denishan and I'm at Amber Camila. We both don't post that much, but follow us anyway. Or check us out. We don't know, share this with somebody, and please take some time to think through these questions for yourself or with those who you love. And that's it. And now we out. Oh, and like John says, are all hearts and minds clear?
Clear.
Clear. All righty. Bye, y'all.
That got their feet upon the neck of the haters, the game and the devil like came in.